Hi, Dr. Yerby here. In this video, I'm going to be covering the 6 steps of incident response handling. It was written, the version I'm going to use was written by a graduate student in some of the SANS curriculum, and the author of the part of the document that I'm going to use today is Patrick Kroll, and this was written back in 2012. But the steps are so well written that I believe that this guide, these basic 6 steps, are still very applicable, that we can continue using this even though it's been several years since 2012. So I'm just going to go through a very short version. The entire paper is only 20 pages long, but I'm just going to spend a few moments going through about 2 pages here, pages 11 and 12. So the first rule of incident response is you have to be prepared. So you might think of this in forensic readiness or your security posture. All of these things go into having your organization prepared to respond to an incident. All members are aware of the different policies. The CERT team knows who to contact when. They have call trees. Incident responders have access to all the different tools and journals and documentation that they need to be able to respond to several different types of incidences, whether it's a breach, a catastrophe, whatever the incident is. There's kind of a playbook of what is expected. All members have participated in drills. Sometimes we can do all of the work of preparing and writing everything down and maybe even buying all the hardware and software, but it's that last step that is tedious and uncomfortable, and sometimes in less prepared organizations not addressed. Doing the drill, doing the test lets you know, gives you some certainty that your plan is actually a doable plan, it's a workable plan. The next thing is when an incident occurs, you need to understand where it occurred, when it occurred, how it occurred. Were there other areas that occurred? You need to understand the size of the incident. Is it something small and we can fix it quickly? Is it something that is still in process, spreading? We need to be able to have an idea of what is going on and what our playbook would dictate that our response would be. How long has it been going on as well is an important one. Sometimes you might find that your incident has been going on for a really long time. That's not good. You have to start getting legal people involved, and you have to start getting multiple departments, and you have to really understand the scope of the incident that's going on. Containment. So again, understanding the scope is important before you can figure out containment. If it's something that's isolated to one machine, one user, containing that is fairly simple. If it's something that's spread through your entire network, containment could mean taking your entire organization offline. And depending on what your business is, depending on how your company makes money, containment could become very costly quickly. Can it be isolated? If so, let's isolate it. Can we continue doing business? Let's do that. Are all of the affected systems isolated from non-affected systems? So maybe I do have to take down 100 different systems, including some servers and users, whatever the things I need to contain, but can the other part remain up? There was a big case with a big shipping company Maersk, it was a big shipping company where their entire organization was taken offline for multiple days, and this was a global company with ships out at sea, logistics, and we're talking about human capital. We're talking about the most important thing of human life was at risk. Not only the millions and millions of dollars that they're losing every day, but they didn't know how big this variant of WannaCry was, that they had to take everything off and they had to do complete containment. System backup. So you need to have forensics copies ready of affected systems, so we can do further analysis. The first response is just like if you're in a battlefield, is you need to contain the damage. Then we need to start fixing the damage. Have all the commands and documentation since the incident occurred been kept up to date? If not, we're going to have to do that work while we're under fire. Our forensic copies stored in a secure location. So after we've had the breach and we started doing our forensic copies so we can analyze it later, we need to make forensic copies. We need to start imaging different systems. This may include network captures that we will otherwise lose at the end. This may include several different machines. This may include RAID arrays. which are going to pose their own unique challenges of size. How do you collect them? How do you analyze them? All the time that it takes to go into putting all of this together and figuring out what happened, right? Long-term containment, so if a system can be taken offline, then we can start the eradication phase. So with the Maersk example that I mentioned a moment ago, their eradication phase included going to all of the local electronic stores and buying brand new computer systems and just installing the few applications to try to rebuild the entire corporate network. Not ideal. If the system must remain in production, proceed with the long-term containment by removing all malware and artifacts of the affected systems, harden the systems, and look from further attacks until the ideal circumstance will be allowed. The next thing is the eradication. So if possible, maybe we can re-image it, especially if we have decent backups. Maybe we're using virtualization and we have some snapshots. Whatever your backup plan goes back to that very first step of preparation. Was your company forensically ready? Was your security posture so that you have a hot site or a warm site to do backups? Do you have full and differential backups? How long is it going to take to restore everything? Have all malware and other artifacts left behind by the attackers been removed and the affected systems hardened against further attacks? If not, then what are you doing? So you have to make sure that once you've identified the incident and you've started to work to clear it out, how can you be sure that it's gone? Because if you stand all the systems right back up and you haven't gotten rid of it, then you're just hitting reset and you've just spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and then you're just reintroducing it. So you have to make sure you get that full containment. Recovery. Have the affected systems been patched and hardened against a recent attack? What are possible in the future? So I like to think of the Equifax breach that happened. So the breach happened because of some missed patches on an Apache server. So before they stood those systems back up, you can be very sure that they tested all of the other systems that were facing that could be attacked the same way. So when you're doing your recovery and you're ready to say we're getting back to business, we're getting back to being able to operate, that you don't leave a gaping hole right where the last one came through. And then what kind of tools are you going to test, monitor, and verify the systems that have been restored and that they're functioning the way that they should? And then the sixth step in here is the lessons learned. So after you've gone through all of the work of, we'll go back through the steps really quickly. You've gone through the work of being prepared, then you've identified what the incident is, then you've contained the incident, and then you've eradicated the issues, and then you've recovered what you can recover, and you're back into operating. Then you do the step that sometimes gets overlooked because you're on to the next thing. Hopefully you're not on to the major security breach or security incident, but it's really important and really beneficial for you and your team to go back through and review lessons learned. So figure out, why did this happen? What could we have done better? And this can kind of help prepare you to go back to your first step of preparation. And then just kind of go through and then brief the stakeholders involved. So depending on the type of organization that you might be working in, the briefing or the lessons learned might end up becoming public, and it might end up costing your company reputation, might end up costing your company financial, might end up costing, if you're working in a law enforcement category, it might cost you a prosecution of a person who perhaps may have been guilty. So all of these things are extremely important. And that's just a quick, less than 10-minute overview of the Incident Handler's Handbook. And again, this came from the SANS Institute InfoSec Reading Room from our author, Patrick Krall. So thank you so much.